Hello and welcome back to Adventure Worthy. My name's Lumin, and in this Impressions episode we're having a look at Shadowrun Returns. Shadowrun Returns is a cyberpunk fantasy tactical role-playing game that was funded via Kickstarter, developed and published by Harebrained Schemes and released on Steam on the 25th of July. The game is set in an alternate version of 2054 where magic has returned to the world and elves, trolls, orcs and even dwarves walk among us. So in this Adventure Worthy, I'm doing things a little bit differently in that I'm not going to be doing the normal let's jump in and play the game thing. Instead, I'm going to have some footage in the background that you can look at that's going to be relevant to what I'm talking about, and then I'm just going to give you my general thoughts and impressions of the game. I think I've played about 2 to 3 hours of the game already, and I will just say, after playing that much of it, Shadowrun Returns won't be for everyone. It really won't be, but it is definitely for me. It's my kind of game. If you like the classics like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, Arcanum, that's another one I really enjoyed, the lot of those, then you'll feel right at home in this game. The only two negative points that I've come across thus far would be the fact that there's no voice acting and the save system, which is not really a save system and instead it's a checkpoint system. The voice acting thing, I'm kind of disappointed by it, but it's not a deal breaker for me. There isn't even like a little grunt that the characters make or like, oh, hello there when you speak to them, sort of like Baldur's Gate has, or most other games of that generation. There's nothing, so it ends up being a little bit quiet, and you gotta do a lot of reading. I feel like Shadowrun's the kind of game that makes you work to enjoy it. If you pay close attention to everything they tell you and they say to you, say about characters or about the areas that you enter, then it'll all just be much more enjoyable. You'll be able to immerse yourself much more completely in the game. And I realize again, that's not for everyone. That's not the kind of thing everyone wants to do. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that sort of just skip through most of the text, and then when the little conversation options pop up, they just click the one that they think would work best for them. I personally didn't play it like that. I went in and made the choices I felt my character, the character of Lumin, would make. The character of Lumin that's well versed in the use of pistols, knows a bit of decking on the side, and is also comfortable with street etiquette. That Lumin. It might just be me, but I pay attention to what's going on, I pay attention to what they say to me and what I have to say back to them, and it just makes it much more enjoyable. I'm not sure if all the choices really mean that much. I feel that some of them can only really go one way because of how linear the game is set up, or at least the story progression of the game. Now there are side quests and stuff like that, but the main story does really sort of just go in one direction. You can't change anything about it as far as I can tell, but that's fine because the story that they're telling does seem to be well worth experiencing. Obviously your character is perceived differently if you make different choices and stuff like that. The different skills, attributes and all that other good stuff that you get to choose from in the character screen, they're interesting enough to make me want to go out of my way to find more karma to spend on them. I suppose that is the best way to explain it. I mean, I want to get more points to put in my character's skills so I can see what the higher versions of them are going to be like, how they're going to function in battle. Tying in with that, I obviously also enjoy picking up different items that make my character look cooler. I found this absolutely amazing armor that just so happens to be the one on the main menu. It's actually called an outfit, if I'm not mistaken, and when I got it, when I found it, when I could buy it for that 1,000 nuyen, I was left wondering, is there going to be something cooler? Am I perhaps going to find an outfit that makes my character look even more badass? That's something that excites me. I'm also wearing this strange looking deck on my back, which is for the decking in the game. It's sort of like hacking or something. I haven't actually spent much time with decking, but I think that it's something like you go into the matrix, so you go like into some computer or software or something like that, and then it's like a whole different level within a level that only deckers can access. So that was obviously something that I wanted to be part of, and I took it. I've not really spent much time using spellcasters in the game, so I can't comment on whether that's fun or not to use, but it does seem okay. I mean, they got heals, they got offensive spells, they got defensive spells, they got a whole lot of stuff to choose from, and I was seriously considering making a spellcaster after I saw the shop where you can buy your spells from. There's a lot going on there. So if you guys have played spellcasters instead of like the pistol and decking specialist that I made, let me know what you think about it. Is it fun? Is it worth trying out? I'd love to know. Now, on the topic of story, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say what happens is right at the start, you get contacted by your friend who just happens to be dead, and he had this dead man switch in his head that sent you a video the second he died saying that, listen here, buddy, I've got a bunch of money put away, and if you find my killer, you can get this money. But there's obviously more behind that. There are different motivations for you to go and help your friend out. Then you start this investigation with the help of various people to find this killer. I'm not going to say any more, but it is a whole lot of fun. The killer happens to be a serial killer, and these aren't really spoilers because this all happens within the first 20 or 30 minutes of the game. So if you do pick it up and start playing, you'll know everything I just told you within the first little bit that you play in. But I will just say that it does get a whole lot more interesting and a lot more intense too. You start meeting all these characters in this world of all these different races and backgrounds, and all of them help you to varying degrees or hinder you to varying degrees. And then you got these little hints or knowledge bombs that get dropped here and there that you don't quite understand at the time of their drop-in, but then later on it just makes sense. It clicks. You're like, hey, that's why that person said that, or hey, that's what this item is for. And nowadays it seems like the games that are released don't have these crazy, intricate, well thought out stories anymore, and that's kind of sad. But that just makes playing Shadowrun that much more fun. It's like reading a really good book. That's what it's like to me. But I obviously get to participate in what's happening in the book, and I sort of have a say with how everything plays out. Now you have to play for a decent amount of time before the game really opens up and you get access to all the different vendors, side quests, enough points, karma points, that's the stuff that you spend on your character, to be able to unlock different conversation options, to be able to have a bit more fun in the combat. And I suppose we should probably talk about the combat too, because it is a reasonably big part of the game. There are some things that I like about it and some things that I don't like. I'd say that the combat could have been a little bit more complex, maybe a bit less random, and it would have been cool if they gave you slightly more abilities with some of the non-spellcasting classes or class types, because you don't need to even choose a class. I didn't choose a class. I customized my character the way I wanted it, and there's just not that much you can do other than take cover and shoot at the enemy. That's pretty much the gist of it. But again, that's not something I would personally complain about because of how heavily story driven the game is. The combat is sort of just like that extra. It's secondary. It happens. Once you're done, you can get back to experiencing the story. And that's that. That's how I think of it. I still enjoy it, but I do prefer the conversations. I prefer making progress with my investigation to find this killer, and in that, making progress with a story. I prefer that, but the combat is okay. The game's setting is perfect. I love the cyberpunk world. It is obviously kind of grim and it's a little bit depressing at times, but the fact that you have these fantasy races, the trolls, the orcs, the elves, the dwarves, running around with all this high-tech stuff and magic in the very same world, it's just crazy, okay? It's something that you don't see every day in games. Then you got all this slang and lingo that the characters use, which I enjoyed a whole lot. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much, but hearing people say drick and bull drick and gutter punk and chummer, I don't know what others there are, but it just works for me. I can't get enough of it. The visuals are amazing. I mean, you can see for yourself the 2D backgrounds with the 3D models on them. It looks perfect. Now that they added anti-alias into the game, it actually looks a lot better than it did at first. Pre-launch, when I was playing the game, I didn't really like how they blended together, but now with that new option in the options menu, which you can turn on anytime, it looks a whole lot better. And I'd say that the use of color in most of the scenes in this game is just crazy. I mean, they make some of the grimmest looking places look like a place that you'd want to go and explore yourself for whatever reason. I mean, you know you shouldn't be there, but because of the way it looks, you want to be there. I can't really explain it, but I'd say that if you combine the visuals, which I just said I really like, with the soundtrack, which I also really like, I've been listening to it for the past couple of days, then you've just got a perfect match. And I really recommend checking the soundtrack out. I think if you buy the digital deluxe version on Steam or wherever you end up buying it, then you also get access to the soundtrack. It is well worth it. It's really good. And if you don't want to buy the soundtrack, listen to it on YouTube or something like that. Do yourself that favor. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about before giving you my little conclusion is the fact that what we get here with the game when we buy it is not all we get in for our $20 or whatever we spent on it, because this Dead Man Switch campaign that they give you access to is definitely not going to be the only thing playable or available for Shadowrun Returns in the next couple of months. The editor shipped with the game, so if you do download it on Steam or wherever else, then you'll get the Shadowrun editor with it, and you'll be able to set up your own custom campaign. And I think that that is going to be one of the strongest features or assets to the game going forward, because while this Dead Man Switch campaign seems really fun to me thus far, I do think that the game is capable of a whole lot more. The engine is capable of a whole lot more. So when the modders get a hold of it, when they start spending a bit of time with it, get to know the editor, then we might see a whole lot of super interesting stuff coming out of that. I mean, they give you access to literally everything in the game. You can open the main campaign that they give you and go through every single scene to see how they set it up, to get ideas from it, to see all the dialogue, the lot of it. You could potentially even use it to find secret areas if you want to, or whatever, if that's the kind of thing you want to do. But the editor should be able to help you justify your purchase a whole lot more. So if you do buy the game now, or if you even just wait and buy it in a month or two while it's on special or something like that, then you'll know that you're buying something that will have that much more longevity, because somewhere along the way, somewhere down the line, someone might release something absolutely amazing for the game. A whole new campaign or something like that. I mean, look at Skyrim. Look how far we are after launch, and still people are releasing these absolutely huge, absolutely amazing, complete overall mods for the game, and people are enjoying them. Maybe Shadowrun will be the same, because the fact that this game did so well on Kickstarter means that there are a whole lot of really passionate people out there in the Shadowrun Returns or Shadowrun community that will do stuff like this. So again, I'm just saying that the editor and its influence on the game going forward is well worth considering. In conclusion, I'd say that Shadowrun Returns is definitely worthy of a grand adventure, especially for fans of classic RPGs. The heavy focus on story and setting is absolutely amazing, and the combat is not bad. It's what you'd expect from this kind of RPG. While the gameplay is linear, I'd say it's linear in a good way, and it helps in a very big way to push the story ahead at the right pace. Then the only two negative aspects: the checkpoint-based save system kinda sucks, but that is something that could potentially be addressed in a future patch, and you gotta do a whole lot of reading if you want to be truly immersed in the game. But I would say that those two are such minor concerns. They sort of pale in comparison to the magnificence of the story and setting of this game. But that's going to be it for this adventure worthy. If you are interested in picking up Shadowrun Returns for yourself, you can do so on Steam for $19.99. Check back here soon for more. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, share it, and do all that other good stuff. And most importantly, happy catching that killer in Shadowrun Returns. Happy that.